Rick Lagina just left Oak Island, and where he went, and what he found there, may be the most important development in 23 episodes of Season 13. Season 13, Episode 23 of The Curse of Oak Island is titled Island Hopping, and the official summary splits the investigation in two, for the first time this season. While Marty stays on the island and makes a deeply interesting discovery on Lot 8, Rick leads members of the team across the Atlantic Ocean to the Azores, the Portuguese island chain sitting in the mid-Atlantic, where they uncover new ties between Oak Island and the Portuguese sect of the Knights Templar. The hunt has left Oak Island, and nothing about this story is going to look the same after episode 23. Let's talk about why Rick went to the Azores, because this trip did not come from nowhere. It came from a chain of evidence that Season 13 has been building one discovery at a time, and episode 22 was the link that finally made the destination undeniable. In episode 22, Road Trip, a discovery from deep inside the Money Pit's Peacock Zone pointed the investigation 2,000 miles away. Whatever came up from the depths of that shaft, from the area where an underwater camera had already captured possible man-made metallic objects inside a 10-foot void at 150 feet, was specific enough in its material provenance for the team's scientific experts to trace its origin across the Atlantic. 2,000 miles east of Nova Scotia puts you in the mid-Atlantic, and the mid-Atlantic, for anyone following the Portuguese Templar thread running through this entire season, means one place above anywhere else. The Azores, 9 volcanic islands, 900 miles west of the Portuguese coast, sitting at the intersection of the Atlantic's main navigational routes. The Military Order of Christ, the Portuguese successor to the dissolved Knights Templar, maintained a presence in the Azores from the earliest period of Portuguese Atlantic exploration. Prince Henry the Navigator, who funded the systematic mapping of the Atlantic coast and the Azorian Islands in the 15th century, was himself Grand Master of the Military Order of Christ. The cross that Vasco da Gama flew on his sails when he rounded Africa, red on white, 4 arms widening toward the tips, was the Order of Christ's cross. These were the people who knew the Atlantic, who had the navigational instruments to cross it on fixed headings, who had both the religious mission and the organizational capability to construct something as sophisticated as the Oak Island underground system. And here is the detail that most coverage of this episode is going to miss. In a previous season, wood recovered from a money pit borehole was tested and found to be made of material common to the Azores Islands of Portugal, not Nova Scotia timber, not North American wood, Azorian material, sitting at depth inside the money pit. That finding was noted and then largely set aside until season 13 began assembling the full picture. And now, in episode 23, Rick Lagina is standing in the Azores, following the thread that the Portuguese coin from 1849, the 14th century drill rod fragment, and the sacred symbol from episode 21 all pointed toward. If you find this kind of deep breakdown useful, the evidence, the connections, the science, hit the subscribe button right now. Every week I post a full breakdown the moment a new episode drops. Tap subscribe, tap the bell. It takes 5 seconds and you will never miss another episode's worth of context. Now let's talk about what Rick is actually looking for in the Azores, because the Portuguese Templar connection has specific, documentable, historically verifiable components that give us a clear picture of what a successful investigation there could confirm. The Military Order of Christ inherited the Templar network intact after the dissolution in 1312. But in Portugal, the Templars were not arrested or executed as they were in France. They were reconstituted under a new name, protected by the Portuguese crown, and given the same properties, the same membership, and the same mission. The order's headquarters moved to the Convent of Christ at Tomar, a fortress monastery whose Templar-era architecture survives intact to this day, built in the circular style that the Templars copied from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. That building, in the Azores, in Portugal, carries the same architectural and astronomical language as the features Professor Adriano Gaspani identified on Oak Island, the same celestial alignments, the same construction tradition. The Ebitor, the navigational instrument described in the Cremona documents that Gaspani demonstrated could guide a vessel across the Atlantic on a fixed route, was a Portuguese Templar instrument. If that instrument was used to cross the Atlantic and establish the geometric survey system that Gaspani's peer-reviewed analysis, dated to 1200 to 1300 AD on Oak Island, then the Azores were not just a waypoint on the route, they were the organizational base. Islands, the place where the crossing was planned, provisioned, and launched. And Charlotte Wheatley's research adds a layer to this that makes the Azores connection precise rather than general. The three St. Rodigan churches in Talmont, France, all aligned at 292 degrees, all pointing across the Atlantic to Oak Island, sit on the French Atlantic coast. The navigational heading of 292 degrees, extended eastward from Oak Island back toward Europe, passes south of Iceland, north of the main Atlantic shipping lanes, and intersects the Azorean archipelago before reaching the French coast. The Azores are not just geographically convenient as a waypoint on this heading. They are on the heading. The same 292-degree line that the French churches used to mark Oak Island passes through Azorean waters on its return path. Rick Lagina did not pick the Azores at random. The evidence pointed there. The sacred symbol pointed there. The Peacock Zone discovery pointed there. The 14th century Portuguese coin pointed there. The Azorean wood in the money pit pointed there. And now season 13 is going there to find what the research has been building towards since episode 1. Back on Oak Island, Marty is making a deeply interesting discovery on Lot 8. That description, deeply interesting, is specific language for the Lot 8 excavation, which has been moving toward the shaft below the flagstone floor all season. Fiona Steele's excavation of the man-made stone platform, the blue-gray clay mortar dated to between post-1200s and pre-1800s. The lead concentrations 11 times the island baseline in the soil beneath the feature. All of it has been building toward whatever lies beneath the flagstone layer. If Marty's discovery in episode 23 is the opening of that shaft, or the confirmation of what the shaft connects to, then the two storylines of episode 23 are mirroring each other perfectly. Rick in the Azores finds the source. Marty on Lot 8 finds the destination. The same organization, the same deposit, confirmed from both ends simultaneously. That is the structure of episode 23. And it is not an accident that the show is telling it this way. Think about what this moment means for Rick Lagina personally. He has been following this story since he was 11 years old, reading an article in a magazine that described an island with an unfindable treasure and an unbreakable curse. He has spent decades building toward this. He stood in Scotland researching the Templars. He stood in Portugal following the Order of Christ connection. He has walked every foot of Oak Island personally in every season. And now he is standing in the Azores, the mid-Atlantic waypoint on the route the Portuguese Templars used to cross the ocean, holding evidence from deep inside the money pit that connects directly to what he is finding on those islands. This is not a television moment. This is the moment a lifetime of searching arrives at a destination. Before I give you the final picture, drop a comment right now. What do you think Rick finds in the Azores that confirms the Portuguese Templar connection? A document, an architectural match, an artifact identical to something from the money pit. I read every comment. The best theories go into the next breakdown. Now the full picture. Season 13 has assembled the most complete, most scientifically grounded, most historically specific case in the history of this show. A carbon-14 leather from the swamp dated to 1148 to 1216 AD. Octagonal survey stakes with stellar alignments consistent with 1200 to 1300 AD in Professor Gaspani's peer-reviewed analysis. A European hand cannon from the swamp potentially dating to the 1200s. A 40,000-pound boulder removed from Lot 8 to reveal a man-made stone platform bonded with blue-gray clay mortar dated to post-1200s through pre-1800s. Lead concentrations 11 times the island baseline, fire-setting evidence. 3 French churches aligned at 292 degrees pointing across the Atlantic. A sacred symbol from the money pit's Peacock Zone. A money pit discovery pointing 2,000 miles toward the Azores. And now Rick Lagina and the Azores, finding new ties between Oak Island and the Portuguese sect of the Knights Templar. The hunt left Oak Island in episode 23 because the evidence led it there. And what Rick finds when he arrives is going to close the loop that season 13 has been building for 23 weeks. The game has changed, and the final answer to the oldest unsolved mystery in North America is waiting in the Azores. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. The episode 23 full breakdown will be live the moment it airs, and you are going to want the complete picture of what Rick found on those islands.